One of the most interesting teams to look at from a curiosity perspective, even if you're not a fan of them, is the Baltimore Ravens, just because this is a team that not too long ago, people were predicting, like, 2 years ago, semi-ironically, but not completely ironically, that they would go undefeated, 16-0, best team in the league. They were 14-2 the year before, had the MVP. The ceiling was the roof, as Michael Jordan likes to say with this team. And then nothing went their way. Like, it seems like no luck was going in their favor, and now that situation doesn't look as clean as it did a couple of years ago. But they're still a very, very talented team, and the injuries from last year, I think, has made a lot of people forget how talented that team is. So to get a clean picture on where the Ravens are, how do the Ravens see the rest of the division, where they see themselves, I'm bringing in the number one Ravens aficionado on the internet, Mr. Engraven Stream. Mr. Engraven Vids, how you doing, man?
What's up, man? I appreciate you having me on. What's up, Browns fans and everybody watching? What's going on?
Yeah, man. It's been an interesting offseason, to say the least, for the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of free agency memes. I've been sending them. I've been making fun of y'all doing them Photoshops, but also just how do you look at this offseason, given that last year, like, you guys weren't bad last year. Y'all weren't necessarily a bad team last year, but you weren't in last place and finishing last place because the team was bad. It was more or less everybody got hurt. Like, almost all the starters got hurt. Like, I think it was like a 60% of the starters or players
felt like more
snap, like, got hurt eventually.
Yeah, everybody got hurt. And then some people got hurt, got healthy, then got hurt again. Last year, I think it was a mix of a couple of different things. Because when Lamar played, like, Lamar is obviously the Ravens X factor. Everything goes through him. With him, the Ravens are gonna always have a chance. Without him, the Ravens pretty much don't have a chance at all. So with him, there was one point where they were 8-3, top of the AFC, despite still having a lot of people hurt. And then he lost a couple of games. And then, of course, in that Browns game, he got hurt, where the pressure came in. I think it was Jock got through. Lamar he ran around a little bit, tried to scramble out of the pocket, and he threw it. And it was a completed pass too, by the way. But Jock got him, and I guess that's where he got that bone bruise, and that ended his season right there. But then even after that, I think, of course, there was a lot of injuries and whatnot, and we lost Lamar. But then there was a lot of this questionable decision making as far as all the 2-point conversions that the Ravens kept going for. But yeah, that season, that was when it ended, when Lamar went out. So I think this offseason, just looking at the moves that they made, offensive line is it has got to be, and I think it is a big priority. Ravens GM Eric DeCosta has come out and said it multiple times, and he has taken accountability verbally for it. But now it's time for him to follow that by action. He did sign Morgan Moses, who used to play for the Jets. And the draft is coming up in a couple of weeks, so we'll see how they address it there. And I know the hope is that Ronnie Stanley comes back and he stays back healthy, because I'm hoping that this will be the first year where Ronnie Stanley plays the entire season, because we have not gotten that from him, not 1 year yet. So hopefully this will be the year. But at the same time, I always say stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. So with Ronnie Stanley, you hope that he's back, but I feel like Ravens need to operate as if he's not coming back. Even though they expect him to come back, they're paying him big money and whatnot. He's on a big contract, but you have to prepare for not even necessarily life without Ronnie Stanley, but you have to prepare as if you don't have him, like he's a bonus. And because of his history, you have to be aware of that. So offensive line has got to be a priority. It seems as if Ravens, they are looking for more difference makers too on the defensive side of the ball. They haven't really done anything crazy on offense. They signed back Patrick Ricard, their fullback, and we know the Ravens, they are a run-heavy team. So bringing him back I don't think anybody was surprised by that. But other than that, Morgan Moses and Pat Ricard on offense, but on defense, that seems to be where they really want to try to make some upgrades. They tried to sign Zadarius Smith. We know how that went. They tried to sign Bobby Wagner. We know how that went. They tried to sign Emmanuel Ogbah. We know how that went. But they did get Marcus Williams. So,
okay. It's like that Denzel meme, you know, I'm from around the way. I got to leave with something. Come on, Marcus.
Yeah, something. But they paid him a nice little chunk of money. And that was a deal that I liked. And I felt like with that move, the Ravens were really stepping out of their comfort zone because they were getting a young player that's entering his prime. And that's an outside free agent. Like Ravens, they don't do that much. They don't give big deals to outside free agents who are young and entering their prime. So when they did that with Marcus Williams, I was like, oh, okay, who are these new Ravens? So that's pretty much been it. Oh, and they brought back Calais Campbell too, and they brought back Josh Bynes too. So just a lot of the same. I feel like the Ravens this year, I feel like this offseason so far, I don't feel like they've gotten better, but I don't feel like they've gotten worse from last year. I think they really are banking on just a lot of people to come back healthy. Of course, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, those are huge. But they did lose some. They lost a lot of depth, especially in the secondary. Jimmy Smith, he's gone for now. He's probably going to retire. They cut Tavon Young, their slot corner. And it's crazy. He had his first season last year where he was healthy the whole year. And well, not his first season when he was healthy, but his first season in a long time where he was healthy the whole year. And it was like, wow, that's crazy. But he got cut. And now he's with the Bears. Anthony Averett, who started for them last year at cornerback, he signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Bradley Bozeman, who was their starting center last year, he signed a 1-year deal with the Panthers. But really sticking on defense, they lost a lot of depth. Pernell McPhee, edge guy, he's a free agent. Justin Houston, who they signed last offseason, he's a free agent. So Ravens, they have a lot of question marks. Tyus Bowser, he is in the last game of the season where the Ravens lost. I felt so bad for him. He tore his Achilles. Last game of the season, Ravens lost, not even making the playoffs, and he tore his Achilles. Last game. It's like, man. So they're gonna have to deal with that. So yeah, they have a lot of question marks on defense, a lot of holes to fill on defense. But on offense, I'm hoping that they really make an upgrade to the wide receiver position. I know they have Hollywood Rashad Bateman. But then other than that, you have James Prochet, you have Devin Duvernay. I'm really hoping that they go in for like a game-changing wide receiver, somebody that you really got a game plan for, and somebody that's going to keep defensive coordinators up at night struggling to be like, man, how are we going to contain this guy? But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, so you touched on something interesting, right, where you don't feel like the Ravens have gotten better, but you do feel like they have maintained. But this division is improving in a rapid way, right? We've seen what the Bengals have been capable of this year. We've seen the Browns, you know, every year that we talked about the Browns, I feel like we've been like, hey, great roster, don't know about the quarterback. Great roster, you know, can Baker do it? Now that Baker's not in that equation, and now it's replaced with Deshaun Watson, pending some legal situations, wondering whatever his status is going to be for the whole year. What is the vibe in Raven land with that, right? Where do people feel like the Ravens, even though they ain't really gotten worse, that they're still kind of falling behind because everybody else is rapidly improving or making those big moves and those big splash signings and those big trades that the Raven fans have been kind of wanting the Ravens to do for quite a while here? Like, is there some kind of paranoia about that?
It has been. And it all depends on who you talk to. There's some Ravens fans who feel like, hey, this is what the Ravens do. Everybody just be patient. They'll come around and get in somebody. They're waiting on the cap cuts and something like that. There's those Ravens fans. And there's some other Ravens fans who are like, hey, Ravens, what they've been doing for the past 10 years is they haven't been this bad losing team, but they also haven't been this wildly successful team. So something's got to give where they really got to do more. And do things a bit different. You don't have to throw out everything that you've been doing in the past, but you got to upgrade it. And that's how I feel. They got to upgrade really just their philosophy. You see just the craziness that has been the AFC. It's been wild this offseason. It has been wild. Just them gaining and Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill stayed in the AFC, but still the Dolphins got him. Russell Wilson, he came on over. Khalil Mack, he went to the Chargers, and it's just It's been crazy. Teams have really been like moving and really trying to get significantly better. And the Ravens, they again, I think that's why I said earlier. It feels like they just been trying to sort of maintain and just they hoping to get everybody back. And that because those have been really some of their biggest moves. I mean, their biggest move this offseason was signing Marcus Williams, who's a safety. And they did give up a lot of blown coverage last year, a lot of busted plays last year. So that was a good move. But a lot of us feel like, all right, Ravens, like, got to do more. We got to do more to try to keep up. And my thing with the Ravens, regular season, as long as Lamar's healthy, not really worried about the Ravens in the regular season. But come postseason, and even in regular season, you want the jobs of the players to be made a lot easier. You especially on offense. On offense, I don't think in the playoffs, I don't think Ravens have scored more than 20 points in a playoff game, and there have been some ugly offensive showings. So one of the biggest reasons that I really want them to really just get out their comfort zone, especially when it comes to the wide receiver position, give Lamar more weapons, really invest in him. But make it easier for him and the other guys in the playoffs to get somebody else that can contribute, and it'll be ready to contribute in the playoffs. Now with Rashad Bateman, he's still a question mark. We haven't got to see him in the playoffs yet, and I think Rashad Bateman is going to be really good. But it's okay to do more. It's okay to have more. Usually in the playoff games, it's just Lamar Jackson and Hollywood that show up. That's it. That's it.
Do you think there's been any frustration between Lamar and the front office for that because of the philosophy that like he's looking at everybody else around the league and they're willing to use dead cap and they're willing to, do all these cap tricks and try to squeeze all these players in. And then meanwhile, when he goes to the Ravens, like, hey, I want you guys to do this or can you guys do that? The Ravens like, hey, we do it a certain way. We can't do it or because of the cap or whatever. But he sees other teams try to finagle the cap that way. Like, do you think that's something I don't want to say frustrating because there's not been like any tangible thing of that, and that's how rumors start. Right. But like, do you think that could be a seed of frustration, as this year looms on, right? If the Ravens fall behind in the standings and then Lamar Jackson also doesn't have his new contract, right? Like, do you think these are seeds that can bubble up to the surface and create a potential problem there between the front office and him?
It's got to be something that he's thinking about because he's a quarterback. He's the one that's throwing to these guys, and he's the one that would have to get the ball to these guys, and he knows the quality of his current group of wide receivers, tight ends, running backs. He knows the quality of them, and so I know it's definitely something that he's got to be thinking about, especially seeing like these teams go crazy with it, and really again try to get significantly better. But as far as it being a point of frustration or possibly blossoming into frustration, I don't know. I would hope not, but I would hope that the Ravens would do something to it. They're like, okay, there you go. We got you somebody, a proven guy, a young guy, talented guy to add to what we already got. Now, one thing that I've been thinking about, I wonder because we haven't really heard of the Ravens offering anything for any significant offensive players. Excuse me. But I wonder if the Ravens may be hesitant to do that because they don't know what the status of Lamar Jackson is moving forward. And of course, we've heard about, he's obviously on a 5th-year option right now. Then we've heard that the expectation is that they franchise tag him next year if he doesn't sign a deal, and then franchise tag him the year after. We'll see. But I wonder if, based off of Lamar Jackson's contract situation, if that will make either the Ravens hesitant to go out and really acquire some significant talent that they would have to give up draft capital for a significant amount of money, or it can make talent hesitant to come to the Ravens, like a wide receiver or a tight end or this or that, because they may be looking at it like, okay, Lamar's on his 5th-year option, but he's not signed to a long-term deal yet. So why would I go there? Yeah, I want to play with Lamar, whatever, but why would I want to go there if he's not on a long-term deal? They could sign me for like 3-4 years, and then Lamar could be gone after 1 or 2, and then I'm still there. So I think that's something that they may be thinking about. Then obviously, too, with the Ravens, their philosophy on offense with their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman. So I wonder if he possibly scares some guys away. They could be thinking like, man, like, I'm not trying to be a part of that. Like, my numbers may go down. But it's so many different factors that could play into this whole thing. But to your original question, I think that Lamar definitely is looking at it. Is it frustrating? Will it be frustrating for him? I think it all just depends on how the rest of this offseason plays out. Because of course we got the draft coming up. They could do some things there. And then they still got time to still make a move for somebody, but we just got to see what these guys do.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the draft, I don't think any Raven fan thought you guys would be in the top 15 of draft picks this year. Now you're sitting there with the first pick out of all 4 AFC North teams, because the Browns don't have first round picks for like 3 years. The Steelers are picking 20th, and then the Bengals, they're picking 31st. Better than 32nd, though, right? But so you guys are sitting there with a pretty good pick. I mean, there's going to be some intriguing defensive players available. And with the Ravens, you kind of always worry about that if you want them to get offensive pieces, just because you're like, if Jordan Davis is there when they pick, how do the Ravens pass that up? But also, a wide receiver would be nice, right? A premium pick on a wide receiver. What do you think the Ravens' plan is this year in the draft for that pick right there in the first round?
Well, they're going to have a lot of options. They are going to have a whole lot of options. Interior pressure and just pressure amongst their defensive line. That's something that they've been lacking. And with the older guys being free agents now, yikes, almost says Zadarius Smith. Pernell McPhee leaving Justin Houston. And they're getting Derek Wolfe back, but he's coming off a back injury and he just had hip surgery. So he's another guy that I feel like would be a bonus. So they got to get younger there. They got to get younger. They got to get more athletic there. So I think they'll really be looking at either defensive line, whether that be somebody on the edge or somebody on the interior of the defensive line. Because right now their defensive line is Calais Campbell, Michael Pierce, Broderick Washington, Justin Madubuike. So yeah, you mentioned Jordan Davis. I wouldn't be mad at that pick at all. That's a big boy, and he's nasty, man. He 1-on-1, you're not blocking him. It's just not gonna happen. You're not. So the fact that he would command so much attention, like he can do so much for so many people just by being him, just by being there on the field. Because there's gonna be a center and a guard on him. Sometimes they might even triple team, but that'll make everybody else's job around him easier. So, and that could be for any team that he goes to. And a lot of people scared that he might go to the Chargers. Like, oof. So I do think Ravens are gonna focus on defense, though. I do. And I think because I think the way that they are looking at it, they have a lot more holes on defense and more places and spots to fill on defense rather than offense. And the Ravens, again, they are such a defensive minded team, even though I wish they would sort of upgrade that thinking and just think more about offense too. Not to neglect the defense at all, but just to really consider really going in for this offense, because it's an offensive league. It's a passing league. You got to take advantage. Like the rules benefit the offenses so heavily right now. As a cornerback, that is probably the hardest position to play in the NFL right now. You can't do anything. You can't even look at you can't even think about a wide receiver the wrong way. It's going to be a 15-yard penalty. Mm-hmm. So I wish the Ravens would really think about that and take that into consideration with building the roster. But I expect them in the draft to really focus on defense.
Yeah, Jordan Davis on the Ravens is one of those things I don't want to see, because the last time you guys got a generationally athletic defensive tackle, that dude was pretty good, right? Haloti Ngata. Yeah, so Jordan Davis there would be pretty interesting, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's where it's going to be that split between fans who are like, oh, we're going to go defense again, because it's kind of been what the Ravens have done, where they make a big move, but it's to bring in Calais Campbell. It's not to get the wide receiver that you want to pair with Lamar Jackson long term. And I think that's where a lot of that frustration has been, that nothing's happened there in his rookie year window. Now you're past it. Now we're talking about extensions, franchise tags. And that's a scary situation when you get to franchise tags for a guy who's a former MVP. Like, you don't want that situation to become untenuous where it ends up like Kirk Cousins and you end up having a guy walk at 27 or something like that. Like, that'd That would be a bad situation. You want to talk about resetting the market in the league.
Boy, man. They better not play with that fire, man. Don't do it.
That's a dangerous one to play with. They need to stop listening to was it Bucket Brooks that keep telling them to draft the what?
Yeah, I remember when he said that last year, man. Oh yeah, the Ravens should draft a quarterback and do sort of the Navy system. So when Lamar's contract is up, then they could just plug and play the next guy. Thinking,
I love when they're like, it's an easy transition because of the style of offense. And I'm like, that style of offense only works because you have a generational athlete at quarterback. Like,
yeah, man. So
people just think anybody can do it. They'll learn. They'll learn. Somebody's gonna think they can do the Ravens system with somebody who's not Lamar, and then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, you can just do this with anybody. But that's what it's gonna take. But yeah, the Ravens are, I think, one of the more interesting teams, right? I think they're a dark horse to win first. But I can also see things going bad to where they finish last. I was talking to Tony about the Steelers, and one of the things he said was the great thing about the year for the Steelers is nobody expects them to be anything but last place. So if the Steelers finish in anywhere but last place, he knows that team, whatever team finishes fourth, if the Steelers finish third, oh, they're going to melt down. Like somebody's getting fired, right? If you finish in fourth place this year, and it's not the Steelers. And it's interesting because like the Browns could definitely have that happen to them. The Bengals could have that. The Ravens can. So as much as the top of the division is really tough, it's also one of those things where we can see it kind of, I mean, things broke down last year in a way that we didn't expect, right?
Oh, yeah.
So as a Ravens fan looking at the division, what's the one move that you have seen around this division that gives you the most concern as a fan of the Ravens and knowing that team's well-being is going to conflict your interest?
Bengals upgrading their offensive line. Bengals, they were able to get to the Super Bowl with a bad offensive line, with Joe Burrow being sacked so many times over and over and over and over and over. But the fact that they upgraded their offensive line, they still have 99% of the weapons that they had last year. They lost TJ Uzomah to the Jets. But they replaced him with Hayden Hurst, and Ravens fans very familiar with Hayden Hurst. So I think that's an upgrade for them. But
Hayden Hurst famously drafted before Lamar Jackson in the first round.
Hey, yeah, it's true. But with that being said, I would say it's them, and reason being because you saw the chemistry and you saw the connection and rapport with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, with Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd, with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. You saw that chemistry with the bad offensive line. You saw what they were able to do with a bad offensive line. They've 3,000-yard receivers with a bad offensive line. Young guys, too, with a bad offensive line. But now the offense, again, with them upgrading the offensive line, that's big. That's huge. And I know there's been a lot of people talking about how the Bengals, they have this big target on their back now since they made the Super Bowl and and it's like, man, if that happened to the Ravens, I wouldn't mind that target being on their back because they made the Super Bowl and they have all the confidence in the world that they could do it again.
And so they're in this fortunate position too, to where they went to the Super Bowl. Everybody's still talking about the Chiefs though. Like everybody's talking about other teams. I've never seen a team go to the Super Bowl unexpectedly, upgrade. And what teams are we talking about? We're talking about the AFC West, right? We're talking about the Broncos. We're talking about the Chiefs. We're talking about the Browns. Every other team that's not the Bengals, that's the team that everybody's like, oh, that's going to be the team to beat. So I don't even know if they have that. We made the Super Bowl target on your back. Like people aren't going to think that they're the Bengals no more, right? Like, but they didn't think that when they had Joe Burrow out there, right? So it's just, it's one of those things where it's like they keep getting overlooked, and that's really interesting to me because like I don't know how people can continue to overlook them.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah, that would be the move, and of course, with the Browns, it's tricky because obviously we don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. We'll see. But that's a big move. That's like it's a huge move. That's a big upgrade too. Still waiting for those dominoes to fall as far as Jarvis Landry because I keep hearing rumors and stuff. Where's Jarvis Landry going to go? Could he come back now since Baker's gone? We'll see. There's been that talk about Odell
put the Photoshop
too.
down. Put the Photoshop down, Raven fans.
I seen Jarvis Landry in the Ravens jersey yet? Probably, but I don't remember.
I don't think they've done it yet. I don't think they've talked themselves into that one yet. Let somebody drop a tweet. Oh, Jarvis Landry visited the castle. Oh, it's back to Cleveland.
Oh, that would be one right there, man. But I just big upgrade at quarterback, obviously. Now I'm wondering, not even if, but I'm wondering when. Oh yeah, they got Amari Cooper. I forgot about him. Because they Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jakeem Grant, kept David Njoku. I still think they're gonna get another wide receiver though, like another significant guy. I don't think they're gonna go into the season as Donovan Peoples-Jones as a starter. So yeah, I Will Fuller. I think that would be a real possibility because him and Deshaun Watson, they were like that. So, but yeah, the Browns they always put together these super crazy rosters every year. But like you mentioned earlier, now you got the quarterback. So how is that going to impact everything? And you got like not just any quarter, you got a really good quarterback. So that's going to be interesting to see what he does for Cleveland as a team. And then as far as the Steelers are weird, man. They're a very weird team because with them bringing in Mitch Trubisky, initially I laughed at it. I was like, Mitch Trubisky, like what? But Mitch Trubisky, maybe for that change of scenery that he's getting, him being in a completely new environment after really being humble too, because he goes out there, he's an obvious starter with the Bears for a while, then goes to a team where he knows he does not have a chance to play. He doesn't have a chance to take over, going to the Bills as a backup. Like Josh Allen is their guy. You are not their guy. You are nothing but a backup for them. So going there for a year and now having an opportunity to start again, this could be a new, refreshed, rejuvenated Mitch Trubisky. So we'll see what happens with that. And with him, I think, like you mentioned, Tony mentioned, like nobody's expecting the Steelers to really be anything, but they always sneaky, man. They are, even when whoever they have at quarterback. We've seen it with Mason Rudolph. We've seen it with Duck Hodges. We've seen it over the years with Charlie Batch, Byron Leftwich, all different types of guys. With Steelers, they always remain, especially in the division, they always remain competitive no matter who's throwing that football.
Yeah, the Steelers, I always say they're one of those teams, I need to see a body. Like, I'm not going to believe they dead unless I see the body. I need to see the body myself. I need to see it get buried because unless that happens, we thought they were dead after the Browns beat them in the playoffs, right? That's it. You can't come back from that. Collapse at the end of the year. It's a wrap. Yeah, and then they look bad at the beginning of the year. They made the playoffs somehow, right? Like, it's just they're never dead when you think they're dead. So I over the 3.5 years I have done this channel here, I have underestimated the Steelers enough. I'm on that. I'll wait till I see it. I got to see that body on the morgue before I start saying anything about it. You know what I mean? That's just what they've done to me over the last 3 years.
Yeah, they real sneaky with it. So they're always going to be in the thick of things too. So this division, I just hope that everybody's healthy. And I know that's obviously a lot to ask for because injuries, they happen. They happen. But hopefully all four teams can stay healthy so we can really they can really battle it out to see who ends up being the best this year, who ends up making it. Are they going to send multiple teams to the playoffs? Is it just going to be one? Is it going to be two, maybe three? We'll see. It's going to be a fight though. So it should be fun.
Definitely should be fun. We'll check in during the year, at least 2 times, right? When the Browns play the Ravens this year.
At least.
So it's going to be a fun year. Make sure you check out Engraving Vids on YouTube. He's over 50K now, so he on that next level of that YouTube stuff right there. But appreciate you coming on, man. You have a great day. You have a good night. Everybody else, y'all have a great day and have a good night.